Hey everyone, and welcome to our worship experience. I'm Sophia, and I'm so stoked to be here with you today. While you're here, we encourage you to worship along with us, however it feels comfortable to you. Also, we're here to hang out with you too, so be sure to say hey in the chat. One last thing, take a moment, snap a picture, share it to your story, and tag us. And now, let's join with students all across Phoenix as we lift up Jesus and our band leads us.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my fears I tried to hide. It was my time when I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The old name knew Jesus when I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, but you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day.
The dark tried to hide you and steal you away. Death tried to keep you inside of the grave. The enemy fought you, he tried but he lost. You cannot be stopped. When we cry for freedom, you tore down the walls. The weight of our burdens, you carried them all. Our fears and our fears hang dead on a cross. You cannot be stopped. Stop our God. There's nothing that can stop our God. There's nothing that can stop our God. There is nothing, there is nothing. There's nothing that can stop our God. There's nothing that can stop our God. That can stop our God. There is nothing, there is nothing. Come on. There's nothing that can stop our God. There's nothing that can stop our God. There's nothing that can stop our God. There is nothing, there is nothing.
It can be really hard to see what you're not looking for. It's pretty deep, I know. So let me give you like a stupid example that happened to me just last week. I was on a hike in a canyon that I had never been before, and I was looking for bears. That may sound insane, but it's what I wanted to see. Or at the very least, I wanted to see like evidence of bear activity in the area. Now, when I'm hiking on a mission to find a certain animal, all of my senses are just dialed in to finding signs of that particular animal. I'm watching the trail, the ground around me, I'm scanning the hills, I'm looking for tracks or droppings or the animals themselves. All of my mental effort is focused on finding exactly what I'm looking for. So this day, I had hiked all the way down to the bottom of this canyon, and the brush was starting to get thick, and there was running water just off the trail. Like, it was starting to look like a great place for bears to hang out. And then I saw it, right next to the trail, in some tall grass in the shade, a big, dark circle. Now, if you've never seen bear poop, that's what it looks like. These things are just eating and pooping machines, and they leave these giant mounds of dark, kind of almost black poop. I was so excited. Like, I ran right up to it, and I was about to do what I usually do in this situation, which is to stab into the poop with my hiking stick. I know that sounds insane and gross, but you can learn a lot from examining an animal's poop. Like how recently the bear was there, what's it eating right now. It's a necessary part of the bear finding process. And I was within 2 inches of poking this mysterious black circle when something started to click in my brain. Like, this doesn't look like bear poop. Why are there stripes? Why is it coiled up? And then that primal lizard brain that I have screamed at me, that is a rattlesnake. And from a dead stand in the trail, I leapt at least 6 feet back, like Olympic level jumping. That sucker didn't rattle, didn't say hey, I'm a snake. None of the stuff rattlers are supposed to do to warn you. He just let me walk right up, place my boot a foot away from him, and almost stab him with a stick. If I hadn't realized what I was actually looking at, I would have poked him, he would have bitten me in the leg, and I'd be teaching this message dead. Here's the point. I couldn't see that this mysterious pile by the trail was a rattlesnake because I wasn't looking for rattlesnakes. I was looking for bear poop. Whatever I was focused on, whatever I'm looking for, that's what I'm gonna see. And the problem for all of us is that can make us miss other things. Sometimes way more important things that are going on around us. Take the last couple months as an example. I bet for most of us, our focus has been on when life can get back to normal, right? We've been looking at all the things we've missed, the stuff that got canceled. We're just focused on finding signs that the world is returning to life as we used to know it. And right now, we're seeing glimmers of hope, right? Some places are starting to open. You could actually go sit in a restaurant right now if you wanted. It's looking hopeful. But before we go dancing in the streets that everything is okay and forget this whole thing ever happened, I want us to pause one last time and just see if we've missed something. What if, in all of our focus on getting back to normal, we have failed to see what God was trying to do in our lives through all of this? What if God was working on us, changing us, growing us, but we just missed it because we were too focused on something else? Well, if you think that might be you, don't worry, you're in good company. Even some of Jesus's original followers had the exact same thing happen to them. I want to look at a story that's in the book of Luke, way towards the end in chapter 24. And this happens right after Jesus was arrested, crucified, and buried in the tomb. All of his followers freaked out. They went into hiding, or some tried to get out of town. But then these rumors started flying around that Jesus was alive, that his tomb was empty and people had been seeing him. But 2 of his followers decide that just to be safe, they should probably get out of town anyway. And that's where we meet these 2 guys. They're walking on a dusty little road to a little town called Emmaus where they can lay low for a while. And suddenly this stranger catches up to them and he asks them what they're talking about. Well, obviously they're talking about the biggest news to ever hit the city of Jerusalem. And they basically ask this guy, where have you been? How have you not heard about everything that just happened to Jesus, the guy we thought was the Messiah? Now, the stranger was the resurrected Jesus, but these guys didn't recognize him. And so after they lay out everything that just happened and how they're super confused now because they thought Jesus was the Messiah, this promised savior, but then he died, but now maybe he's not dead, Jesus just kind of laughs and he asks them this in verse 26. Wasn't it clearly predicted that the Messiah would have to suffer all these things before entering his glory? Which basically means, you guys know the Old Testament, and if you look at all that was written there, you should have seen this coming. And then he explains passage by passage how all through the history of God and his people, there were these predictions, these glimpses into how everything these guys just witnessed was exactly how it was supposed to happen. And so at the end of the day, they finally arrive at the town and they invite stranger Jesus to stay with them. And they sit down and they start to have a meal. And as Jesus breaks the bread and starts passing it around, suddenly these guys get it. Like their eyes are opened and they realize who was walking with them the whole time. And they turn and look at each other and they say in verse 32, "Didn't our hearts burn within us as he talked with us on the road and explained the scriptures to us?" They knew something was going on. Like they could feel it the whole time, but they still missed it. How? I'll tell you how. They weren't looking for him. They had heard the rumors that Jesus was alive, but they were struggling to believe it. The Messiah they were looking for was going to raise an army. He was going to conquer the Romans. He was going to restore freedom to Israel. They never thought to look for a man who would suffer and die for the people he loved. They missed Jesus because they were looking for something different. So let me ask you, what have you been looking for, and has it caused you to miss something more important? Like if someone asked you right now, what has God been showing you during this season, and you don't have an answer, you missed something. I can guarantee that God has been trying to teach each and every one of us something during this time. Have you missed it? As we wrap this up, I want you to hear from Ciara. She's a CCV student from Surprise, because she's been giving a lot of thought to what Jesus has been doing in her life during this season. And honestly, I think she has some great stuff to say. And afterwards, as the band sings one more song, I want you to spend some time answering the question for yourself. What has God been doing in your life? Because I can guarantee he's been doing something, even if you may have missed it until now.
What is God teaching me during this season? One of the biggest things God is teaching me is to have a greater appreciation for things I may have been taking for granted. For example, my friends or extracurricular activities. Now, of course, I've always been very thankful and appreciative of those things. But once those things were no longer available to me, I found myself realizing how much they really meant to me. I've been able to take a step back and admire all the blessings God has placed in my life. And once this season has passed, I know I'll have a greater thankfulness and appreciation for everything God has given me. Another thing God has been teaching me in this time is to remember where my priorities lie. When all the extra things in my life were no longer available, I realized how much time those took away from time I needed to be spending with God. I've also been able to remember that God placed all those blessings in my life, and He can remove them as easily as He put them there. I believe He's temporarily removed those distractions from our lives so we can focus more on our relationship with Him. And I believe after this, all of us will emerge stronger in our faith and stronger as a community.
Students, let's invite God into wherever you are tonight. Let's invite Him into the circumstances that feel overwhelming, the places you don't think you can handle on your own. Let's invite God to move in those very places tonight.
Speak to me when the silence steals my voice. You understand me. You understand me. And come to me in the valley of unknown. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. Yes, you understand me. So I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. Yes, we do. Yes, I will rest in the Father's hands. We leave it all. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. I will rest in the Father's hands. Yes, we do. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. So I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. Yeah, you're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. Yes, you are. It's who you are. So I will rest in the Father's hands and leave the rest in the Father's hands. I will rest in the Father's hands and leave the rest in the Father's hands.
This will be a season that we all look back on and remember forever. For those of us who put our trust in God, I hope the season will be an opportunity to grow closer to Him and see that His goodness is still all around. It's been great spending these moments in worship with you guys, and I hope that we can continue the conversation later in our groups. For those of you that haven't been able to engage in your group lately, that's fine. Your coach has all of the details to get you back in connected this week. If you haven't been able to engage in a group yet, that's also fine. Text students to 72020. We'd love to have you, and there's a group waiting here for you. Thanks again for joining. I hope to see you right back here next Wednesday.